blockchain technology, Bitcoin. I feel like Africa should be taking great advantage. I don't know if you will be following up on the impending or the imminent financial crisis that is basically looming with in the United States, basically
with
with the
with
SVB,
the crash of the banks and all that.
exactly, and all of that. So basically, people are beginning to understand the essence or the significance of an asset class like Bitcoin. And as you can see, as these banks are dumping, coincidentally, so to speak, you know, Bitcoin seems to be on a little bit of a rise.
Mm.
Would you really think something like that is a coincidence? I mean, look at there are various countries that are taking the leap of faith, like El Salvador, for instance. These guys are they are so serious about using Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies basically as a means to bank the unbanked. That's deep, man. So I feel like
Yeah, yeah.
Africa as a whole, we need to be taking serious advantage of the blockchain technology specifically.
Okay, specifically taking advantage of blockchain technology. Okay, since you've highlighted a subtopic there, which is like financial technology, how we can improve our financial technology in Africa. And you made mention of something like blockchain, the technology called blockchain, in how we can be able to use blockchain in Africa. I mean, take for example countries like a country like Nigeria that have been able to implement something like e-naira, which if I'm presently I'm not in Nigeria, I've not been able to see the functionality of Inera. Although we've talked about Inera severally on this platform, but I guess this is another opportunity to talk about it again. Talking about the Inera and being a CBDC operating on a blockchain, although not managed by the governments themselves. It's a functional blockchain to an extent, and they have an application also for transactions. And recently, I discovered that in Nigeria, there's a problem in the marketplace. Basically, there's a difficulty in transaction. There's a difficulty in payment systems. I think in Nigeria, a lot of people are so inclined to paying with cash. For me, anyways, from my perspective, I believe the government they are trying to incentivize people to change their perspective on the notion of transaction. That is converting their mindset towards actually seeing it easier to use in naira, so to say, digital cash, digital money for transactions. But still, it seems to be a problem because most times when I go to Nigeria, it's like you can't pay for things. Most people don't accept some certain types of money. While there's a technology that's already been implemented in Naira to facilitate this. Personally, I believe if I was in Nigeria, that's what I would actually use. If I'm going anywhere, I'll be like, okay, let me use Naira to pay for this thing. Is that possible? Then I'll be able to know that, oh, are people actually accepting this technology or not? So in that situation now, because that's an implementation of blockchain in Nigeria, although it's not directly Bitcoin, but I'm sure in time to come, if people are accepting to it, obviously it's going to be easy to transact with Bitcoin using internet too. So that's an implementation of blockchain. But what could be the problem? Why at this stage it has still not become a solution to, you know, transactions, to payments facilitation in Nigeria? Anyways, from my perspective, I don't know, you may have a different perspective since you are currently in Nigeria.
No, I feel like the yeah, with the in thing, I sort of feel like the Nigerian government or CBN they're kind of ahead of
Mm.
themselves. I feel like the very first step, if they're really trying to bank the unbank and try
Mm.
to initiate something like a cashless policy, if that is their aim, they should first start with traditional banking. They should first start with that aspect first, because to be very honest, the in era has not really been successful. I don't know. As the last time I bothered to even check it, a lot of bugs, and it wasn't working with banks and all of that. So
Mm.
imagine that for a country, for a whole country, to experience that kind of that kind of problem, initiating something that is supposed to run around the entire country. But let's just give them E for effort, you know. But to be honest, I honestly think that the CBDC is not ready to kick off. I don't know what their plans are. They may actually succeed in it because I recently heard that they are also going as far as trying to implement something called a national card, whereby you have your NIN and SIM and all of that with all of your details. It's going to be a card, and that card will be used to make payments into foreign platforms. Because currently now with your current Nigerian card, you cannot make purchases.
Obviously, trying to implement technologies like blockchain, most times in fact it's not as easy as as one can foresee from outside the structure. But for me, I see it as a good step in terms of trying to implement it in the first place. But anyways, it's going to be down to perfecting it and then acceptance from the general public also. Although in places like you made mention of El Salvador, they focused more on trying to hedge their financing. It was more like an investment, a long term kind of investment strategy that they did, hedging their finance and their economy on the growth of Bitcoin and whatnot. Although from a distance, it's quite a good move. It's a smart decision because I mean, if you are the first to be on a trend, obviously when the profits start coming in, it's going to influence your economy positive in a positive light. If we're going to be applying that to Nigeria, why do you think it's not something we can consider or something we are considering? Because it's not even in the conversation at all. I don't know if I've not heard about it in any sense where somewhere where it's been mentioned that it's actually we could actually get the Nigerian economy, Nigerian finances to be also reflecting in Bitcoin, invested like that. Why do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, I feel like, in my opinion, this generation we are more inclined to take this kind of risks. If you notice, the older investors like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and all of that, they are not sold
Mm,
into cryptocurrencies. So I believe
mm,
that most nations actually have that investment mindset.
mm, mm,
I
mm,
feel like they are still in the disbelief stage. They do not really, they are not completely sold out. Mostly because it's a free market,
mm.
and the fact that it is really open source and all of that stuff, it's not really going to be friendly for them. Also, it means for a lot of transactions to go on that they will not be able to control and all of that stuff. Basically, that's the reason why all of them, they all want to be able to regulate it first before they throw open their arms. But they all realize, believe me, they all realize that it has potential. I mean, recently in the United States, they announced that they will not be banning Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and
Mm.
blockchain and all of that. They just announced it. So obviously they understand. They know.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, there's nothing like I don't think there's anything like ban. You can't ban something someone is already using and it's functional. You only ban it. You are banning it for yourself because at that point you're just limiting yourself from using it. But people, you have free access to the technology as long as you're connected to the internet. You can use the technology, so you can't really necessarily ban such technology, especially at this day and age. Well, in from the context we're talking about, we've been able to. We're looking. I think we're looking roughly at how technology is going to improve, the standard of living in terms of poverty alleviation in the nation. Because we're talking about technologies like blockchain and financial technology, so to say, it's a means to alleviate poverty. Anything that deals with finance, it's anybody that is exposed to that knowledge or that information, at the brink, at the start, is mostly those are mostly the people that are termed the financially alleviated masses, so to say, in the nation. And digital technologies like blockchain, Bitcoin, it's a really really good opportunity to transform a nation from a third world nation to looking at first world nations. Because if we're looking at countries like America, it's because they were able to they started they were able to transform their financial economy, so to say, was as a result of how much they invested their policies in the growth of gold, things like commodities like gold and all that. That was what influenced the growth of their economy to what we are seeing now, because they've been able to see where's the money going into, where's most of the finances going into, and how can we capitalize from that. I think those are some things that we can look at in terms of sharing Nigeria, the context, the technology, like how technology can improve Africa, because obviously we need to touch slightly on the financial aspect of it in terms of poverty alleviation. But now also looking at other contexts in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, and in terms of agriculture. But before we go that deep, let's try to look at education for a bit. Although I think I understand that yourself, you've been able to you've passed through a lot of levels of education, and now you are I don't think you are looking at education in the primary sense or in the normal context. You are now educating yourself in a whole plethora of things, a new foundation of things. Now it's not the standard level of education that we understand in terms of university and all that, masters, PhD, and all that. I think the idea of technology, the idea of education, to say, is changing. And do you think technology has influenced what we understand by education, or technology will influence what we understand by education?
In terms of improving the structure of education, there's a particular blockchain called Cardano.
Okay.
Cardano has certain projects in Africa whereby they are trying to elevate the educational system, and they're looking at systems such as, instead of um, students being graded per semester, or they have to write one exam and all of that. Basically, throughout their entire study, throughout the entire life,
Mm.
let's say the 6 year period that the child needs to study, all of the child's performances will be calculated, and at the end of the session, you see whether the child has made improvement or not, instead of having certain exams. I don't know if you get me.
Sorry, come again.
Okay, I said that what Cardano is trying to do basically
Mm.
is that they're trying to create a system whereby um, uh, students are not judged based on exams.
Okay.
They are judged based on um, throughout the period performance. So let's say it's a 6 year period.
Mm.
They are going to be judged based on
Okay.
the entire 6 years,
Mm.
and all of this stuff will be stored on blockchain. So it's
Mm.
information that is literally available for everybody to see.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
That's pretty cool, right?
Mm. Yeah, pretty cool. It's going to be an automatic system, by the way.
Exactly. So
Mm.
there's just a whole lot of stuff going on right now that I feel like Africa as a nation, we need to be tapping into these things, because I feel like, I mean, natural resources are good, right? Natural resources are
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the world is right now, we are sort of advancing into renewable energy and
Mm.
a bunch of other things. I don't know. I
Mm.
just, yeah, go on.
Well, natural resources will help when we're able to use the natural resource. Obviously, natural resources are there to create something. We have to be creative with the natural resources we have. Every natural resource that was transported to any foreign nation was obviously transformed into something usable,
Yeah,
which is what is arriving us to even the future we are currently living in terms of the digital future. What makes something digital is as a result of transformation from raw materials, right?
yeah. That's true. That's actually
Mhm.
true.
Exactly. So we actually possess the ability, we possess most of what it takes to actually get to a digital age. And I believe when our masses begin to get conscious of that fact, our transformation will be explosive in such a way where people who are not aware of the possibility of what technology can be will be lost in the divide. You
Yeah.
understand?
But what do
So
you
I
think?
think that's
Sorry, go on.
you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what do you think is the reason um we, uh, we are not really using our natural resources in Africa? generally speaking?
I think it's the cost of manufacturing, like the cost, like the idea of cost. And I think we are creating the issues for ourselves because most people are thinking about being profitable first before thinking about innovating.
Mm.
Because obviously, there are people who stay in their homes and they're able to create electricity like from their home. But now creating that electricity in a large scale becomes a problem because when you are trying to get a piece of land to create electricity for the whole neighborhood, the person who owns the land will tell you that you have to pay this much amount of money first before you make light for him. And now you go to meet the government and say, okay, please, I need an upfront, give me a loan so I can get this land and make electricity for my community. And then the government tells you that you need a collateral, something that tells me that okay, you're going to pay back this loan. So you see, all these loops, it keeps us in a loop that we can't ever go out of. It just takes people who are innovative minded and then ready to, sacrifice.
That makes sense.
That's what I believe though. Because if we have all the raw materials, it's simply some certain people have access to these raw materials and some certain people have access to the knowledge on how to transform these raw materials. I think just recently I came across some guy who was able, although it's something that most people do on a small scale, who is able to transform what's it called now? Fertilizers, what they use to make methane gas. He transforms methane gas to electricity for his home. He's not connected to a grid. His home runs on methane gas power. So that's like biogas, what's it called? Electricity.
Wow.
And that in itself is technology. And there are some people, even that's Africa, not like somewhere far away. I think that was Nigeria, in fact. And then there's one I heard in South Africa. I saw one in South Africa. I think I saw another one. There's one in Tanzania who is able to transform air, like particles from the air. So anyways, he's able to tap into hydrogen and oxygen in the air and condense them into actually producing water. And all these things, it just needs one to be able to transform that into a large scale for it to become a product, a consumable product. So either some in this at this point, in fact, Africa as a whole shouldn't be thinking about capitalism. I think that's one thing that is also messing up a lot of things. We should be thinking more on a socialistic mindset, like how can these little things that we have, how can we make it available for everybody first, so that everybody is able to grow. Why I'm saying this is because of a little experience I've had, like here in Algeria. Algeria, they operate a lot on socialistic mindset. Their government is run socialistically, and in that sense, even the people like their students, you go to school and you get paid for going to school. There's a lot of things are subsidized. The petrol they are one of the largest producers of petrol. Petrol is so cheap here, and if you have a family, the government provides a land for you, they build a house for you.
Wow.
That's the height of socialism. Like, it's crazy. If you're a citizen of Algeria, like, it's like you don't need to do anything, you don't need to work on stuff like that. The only problem they have is that their innovative mindset is down. Like, they are not so innovative.
That's the issue.
So that's I
Don't you
think
think that's the issue
yeah,
with socialism?
exactly. I think that's one of the pitfalls of socialism. But there should be people who should be able to look at that aspect and be like, okay, these are the pitfalls of this, these are the advantages of this. How can we bring this together, both of them together, and actually be productive about it, be proactive in improving our what's it called, our way of living? Because obviously socialism, capitalism, all these things were influenced by these things. We didn't create them by ourselves. It was an influence from external factors. So that's one aspect. Then looking at education, still on education, so to say, there was an idea that passed by my mind. Looking at how I don't know, I might have said this once or twice, I'm not sure, but looking at how the certifications can be digitized in such a way where I've heard of situations where somebody goes to school, passes all his time in school, gets his certificate, and then comes out. Sadly, he had an incident and then his papers got burnt somewhere. Maybe there's a house fire or something. He lost his certificate. He has no proof that he went to school because his certificates were not stored anywhere. He doesn't have sadly, he doesn't have, maybe he lost his phone where he took the snapshots. Everything is saved for his certificates that he went to school is gone. There was no way of getting the certificates back, and I think that's the worst case scenario. Maybe normally if you go, I'm sure if you go to the schools, you can get a reprint and all that. But think of maybe he's far away in some other nation and he needs the certificates right there and then. These are challenges that someone can actually face. But looking at a simple solution that's a technology like blockchain, like Tech actually mentioned, where if certificates can actually be given in form of NFTs, school certificates, you go to school and then they present your certificates in physical copy, and then you have a backup on a blockchain that is represented as an NFT. Whenever you go to your wallet, you can see your what's it called, your certificates stored there. You have a code, your private key and your public key to show whenever you go to any school or you want to apply for any job, you can use your private key or your public key to authorize or to authenticate your certificate. So if you show it to any office, they have the software, they can be able to prove that okay, this certificate is actually authentic or not. That is an aspect that blockchain can actually help in terms of education too. So since Bitcoin Chief is here with us, welcome. It's been a while since we had you on this platform, and I'm really excited to have you here. What can you say about digital transformation in Africa? Because that's actually a topic we're looking at, in case you're not with us just yet. Can you hear me?
Thanks, Netflix, but it's a very interesting topic. It's also a very broad topic, you get, because it has so many. But digital transformation in Africa, from my own perspective, I would use the word thriving, because in some parts it's, what did they call it? It's going like the speed of light and probably trying to catch up with the Western world. While in some parts, due to the fact that there are so many factors like the acceptance of anything that has to do with technology is being hindered. So digital transformation in Africa, as I said, is thriving. There was an internet story I read about and how the internet has actually affected Africa in the last 20 years in the last 22 years since 2001 till now. And I saw how Egypt, Algeria were one of the first people that actually were exposed to the internet first, and how some parts of West Africa in the last 20 years have been able to catch up and surpass them in the use of the internet and how it's using it for various things like education, as a source of income, and things of those like. So, as I'll say, it's been thriving. I wouldn't lie to you. And discussing other parts of how digital transformation has been in Africa, it's so many opportunities, but it has its own state of challenges too. You get. If we can, what do they call it? Break it down. I know of West Africa because I'm in Nigeria presently. I overheard you say how things are so really easy in Algeria. I guess they are operating the same system as the Libyans when Maman Gaddafi was in rule. He said when you go to school, it's not like that in some parts of West Africa like Nigeria. You get everything. It's a hustle for somebody as compared to the other person. You get. We are not socialists. We're a very capitalist nation, if I may say. You get. So, I don't know. Digital transformation has gone through a lot. Anyways, to think about it from a question point of view,
You get
Yes.
what's the state of what is its present state now? You get.
Okay.
I always like to talk from a point of my reality. I don't know if that makes sense. My reality, which is what is
Exactly.
going on with us right now in Nigeria and how it's affecting us. There were sometime in 2014. There was this thing called Paga e-commerce. You get,
Okay.
and all of a sudden, Paystack came from nowhere. A means of what did they call it? Is what do they call financial technology? Means of transferring money from one point to the other without a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stress. You get
Mm-hmm.
between one bank to the other or from Nigeria to outside the country. You get that's a plus. You
Yeah.
get that's a transformation. That's another plus to us. You get so many infrastructures have been put in place. Today we have over 50. We have Sendwave. We have the same Paga is still existing. We have Flutter Wave. We have so many. Yet these are things that have come and we have seen how it has affected the what did they call it? Or we have seen how it is a plus to digital transformation in Africa. You get so
I was even going to ask you, like especially with I think there was a point we touched on previously in terms of the inner, in terms of blockchain in Africa. So now you're even talking from Nigeria, and I think you're going to be talking from a perspective of a certain part of Nigeria. How is inner actually facilitating the current challenge of a cashless society or a society where cash is difficult? I don't know if
yeah,
you're
like right
personally
now in Nigeria, we
experiencing,
have a massive
any trouble.
crash course. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you now.
Okay, like right now Nigeria is facing a massive cash crunch, and INAIRA is a topic we have discussed on countless times on various of our spaces. But to explain it, if Nigeria as a country, had fully put a system in place for this INAIRA to be extremely functional, you get it would have this whole crash crunch now. If there was a system where the INAIRA was easily accessible, everybody could actually use it. It was now a confirmed means of transaction. You get the whole crash crunch wouldn't have really affected us as a nation. You get so INAIRA was a concept that was formed by the central bank, but it was not fully put in place. Now the pre-existing one, I would have felt if INAIRA was, what do they call it, powered by a system like blockchain, where we know that okay, transactions are being taken down, and just putting the system of blockchain in place, that would have been better because since the inception of Bitcoin in 2009, blockchain has been generally accepted in some parts of the world. Let's take, for example, El Salvador. They are taking it like personal, really, really personal.
Yeah.
And it has been really it was supposed to bring about digital transformation. You get, but it's not as effective as it's supposed to be.
Okay, that's okay. That's actually a very challenging, notion to accept, because I'm still finding it so difficult to understand why the inner is not functional in such a time like this. But I guess we'll have to move on from that. Hopefully, we'll still stress on that. I'm sure we'll stress on that in time to come. But there's another thing I was trying to look at, like technology in the healthcare sector. Although I'm not, very inclined to have, I don't have a lot of information around, how technology is improving healthcare. Although it's eminent, looking at, even this past pandemic we had in terms of coronavirus, and why or how, we resulted to getting such a pandemic over time. So how do you think, technology is affecting the healthcare sector, both positively and negatively?
Okay. As I said, I like to talk from my experience. So I have a particular friend I know that introduced an app to some of the federal hospitals here. It's a pre-existing app that has been working perfectly in the UK. You get it's a database of patients that have what do they call it? Instead of the manual system of files and knowing, okay, this guy has a file, this patient has a file with this pre-existing condition, and this is how it's being followed up. There was a what did they call it? A completely computerized system in place that he introduced. The name of the person I'm talking of is his name is Dr. Lanre. He works in the UK. So he came up with this concept and brought it to Nigeria. And I what did they call it? From after assessing the what did they from head to toe, I see it as a way that if was fully adopted in Africa or in Nigeria as what did they call it? Smart analysis, it would have been very effective and it would have totally shifted up this whole thing where you have to start looking for somebody's file to know when last you did a diagnosis on him, what meds were being prescribed for the person, things like that, you get. So it's like there was a digitalized database of each and every patient, you get. And there was a system in place where your doctor gets to know, it was part of the thing he introduced, where your doctor gets to know what is wrong with you before you physically meet him. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, you have already put in your symptoms, your doctor is seeing it on the other end, you get. So it's like an app where you put in, doctor, I'm having headaches, I'm having sore throats, I'm on my way to the hospital now. Okay, then there's like him taking down your diagnosis, possible things before a physical examination is taken on you. So things like that. I know it's very functional. He has a couple of hospitals on his catalog in the UK, and he tried to introduce it in Nigeria. You get. So things like that, you get, would have been, if totally accepted, would have been things that have said, okay, part of the transformatory things that are going on in Africa right now, or going on in, you get. But to one I've seen that is a plus.
Yeah, that's actually really good. That's really great
system. Let's take, for example, you give the COVID. If we had a database of all those that have had COVID, the database of those that were treated in a digital format, you get, and probably
I think from what Bitcoin Chief was trying to say in terms of, so I think there's a doctor who has been able to create a technology or create a software, a database, so to say, that operates automatically, in terms of storing people's patients' data. For patients and doctors, confidentiality and the ease of communication. I think it's actually a good technology, for the healthcare space and healthcare industry. So, from your perspective, what do you think? Or are there any other notions that you're looking at in terms of how technology is helping to improve the healthcare sector?
I wouldn't know, but in terms of all these innovations that Bitcoin Chief mentioned, I would say that they're all kind of, centralized. I believe that they're all centralized systems that can be prone to hacks and things like that, and manipulation, so to speak. So why I'm saying this is, for instance, let's say somebody is able to access, somebody that does not want to access, that shouldn't be able to access, is able to access a certain important person's database. It can use it, against him in all forms of ways. I don't know. I'm just saying things like that.
Yeah, the pitfalls of such a technology.
Yeah.
Or such innovation.
Yeah. As opposed to, I don't know. I don't. I mean, it sounds like a very.
There's actually this thing you're talking about. There's actually one. There's one token I came across. I think they solved this problem in a way. When I was looking at them that time, I think it was a few years ago. They DentaCoin, that's the name, DentaCoin, but it's mostly for dentists. Like doctors that deal with tools and what dentists. So the name of the coin is DentaCoin. Their database is decentralized, in such a way where no one person has control of the data coming in for the doctor to see, and then also the patient, whatever data you are implementing and you are putting in as a patient, you are the only one. You're just yourself, and the doctor can be able to have access to that specific data.
Exactly.
I think that's the solution you're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly where I was headed. Things like this that are this
Okay.
sensitive should be as much as possible decentralized, where
Okay.
it can't be manipulated, basically.
Mm.
Things like that. But the problem with decentralization of something like this, something as sensitive as this, is that I think that the entire blockchain has also not developed some necessary security um, things, issues as
Mm.
well. I
Mm.
mean, there's still blockchains that are getting hacked. But the good thing about it is that
Mm.
it is decentralized. That's number one. And then the developers that are building on various blockchains are actually working day and night trying to develop their security. I feel like in this coming cycle, one thing that a lot of people are
Mm.
going to pay attention to is the security of whatever crypto that they are
Yeah.
investing in. I feel like that's one thing.
I mean, in terms of hacks, one thing that I've noticed with hacks in blockchain is the fact that you can actually keep track of whatever hack. If there's a hack or a hacker, and the hacker is able to go do away with something valuable in terms of crypto assets, no matter how long the person tries to stay silent or hidden, you can keep track of that particular wallet or that particular digital footprint.
Yeah, yeah,
Unlike
very true.
Yeah, unlike traditional, databases where, in fact, you can access the database and exit the database, and you are literally a ghost.
Mm. Yeah,
But
something
on
like
the
blockchain would definitely leave footprints that it would be very difficult
yeah,
to get rid of.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's I think that it starts from there. The security starts from there. If there are footprints that can be tracked, I think it starts from there. I think the next stage is now, the bodies that are going to, be dedicated to actually, being on top of those challenges, getting the data. It's about getting the statistics of those data, of those, digital footprints, and familiar, methods of actually attacking, blockchains and databases, to create clapbacks and whatnot. I guess bad guys have to turn good at some point to help in these things too.
to be very honest, from
Mm.
the direction of this conversation, this is something that I
Mm.
don't really say a lot, but I'm just going to say it
Okay.
since we are kind of talking about it. I'm actually
Mm.
not entirely against regulation in crypto. I feel like
Okay.
regulation is actually going to help, and
It's going to go a long way.
is actually going to help a whole lot.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
despite the fact that the entire idea behind crypto is to be decentralized as much as possible, I still think I mean, it's going to be decentralized, it's still going to stay decentralized, but at least there should be some form of regulation. I don't know how they're going to go about it, but I actually agree with it because various, um, uh, the crime rate in crypto is actually something that needs to be attended to, and there are a lot of things that can go on in the blockchain because of, certain security that have not yet been handled, so to speak. Um, so yeah, I actually agree that I actually believe that regulation is important. It will give the investors such as the old investors, the traditional investors, people like I initially mentioned, people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and people in their league. It will give them a certain level of confidence, knowing that okay, the government is actually in control of this. The government, which is mostly their best friend, is in control of this, so they would, you know. might consider buying into it. And if that happens, you can imagine what will happen to old investors like you and I. Imagine if people like Bill Gates start actually building around it. That would be really cool. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Oh.
One thing I noticed with trying to regulate cryptocurrencies is actually understanding where to start regulating from. Because first of all, crypto stance is, that's cryptocurrencies, right? Cryptocurrencies, they stand as a free technology because it operates on the blockchain, and these days most blockchains are open source in such a way where it gives you the free creative edge to create any idea, any cryptocurrency idea you have in terms of communicating or performing transactions or delivering services or delivering products. And most people these days, a lot of individuals are, should I say, gullible or hungry to the extent where whatever products or services are offered or presented, we tend to look for opportunities, even if there are really no opportunities there. And these are things where most people the bad players capitalize on. And that's in terms of just traditional scams and whatnot. But now, if we're talking about hacks, the advanced levels of threat to the blockchain space and to the blockchain technology, to cryptocurrency, it's now, I think, playing on a higher level in terms of someone who has actual knowledge of the structure of how blockchain operates, and then the person is capitalizing on it. The person lost the sense of morality and is capitalizing on that knowledge to make some quick buck, which to an extent yeah, you can't really how do I say, you can't regulate that. You can't regulate that. Oh, stop doing this.
That's true.
Obviously, the person knows how to do it, and you don't know how to do it, so you don't even know when the person has done it.
That's actually true.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be down to at the stage where we need to get to a level where the players are already there. Like those big players need to come because it needs finance. You need to be able to finance people to. Because obviously, anybody that is a bad player is being a bad player so he can make money, so he can survive. But when the finance is in the industry and you finance people who have the knowledge to craft roadblocks, craft roadblocks here and there, it's going to be much more difficult for people to hack and do some bad plays, so to say, in the industry. I think finally Nova has been able to join. I don't know if you can hear me, Nova. Hello, Nova, can you hear me? Can you speak if you can? You just unmute your mic.
Oh wow! So I had to update my Twitter.
Yeah. Hope you're good.
Apparently, I've had my Twitter since 2018, and I've never updated it.
Okay, I see. Okay, that's why it was having issues trying to connect.
Yes, I just updated it now, and it's working.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that was my last try. If it didn't work, I was just going to listen.
Okay. But so far, I hope you've been able to at least catch a frenzy of where the conversation is at.
Yes. Yeah. I've been able to pay attention, and I hear where it's going. It's going.
Oh, that's great. Although most times we tend to let these conversations go as long as 1 hour. So, but I would just love to get your perspective personally from the topic at hand, in terms of digital transformation in Africa, and from your perspective, especially because you do some certain things that I would love to hear your perspective. So, generally, what do you think about digital transformation in Africa?
As a continent, we have a long way to go, but as a new age of youth, with let me say, as the era of our youth, if you want to compare, like middle age people born in between the ages of since the 90s, by research, it says that Africa has the most evolving youth. Apparently, the youth in Africa are more prone to they are moving to the digital space than youth in the outside world. When the survey was done, Asia was number one, Africa was number two, even before the Americans. So that means that we are catching on as a youth, and we're catching on as people. But the sad part about it is that the age before our age are trying not to evolve with it. So they're making the transformation stage or transforming to the digital stage very difficult. And you know what I mean by that. Our mothers and our fathers don't want to even go on WhatsApp. We have to convince them so much before they go on WhatsApp. Just as an app like WhatsApp. So talk of Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You know it's a long shot, but we are doing well as a people, and it's a growing stage for us. It's a growing process for us, which eventually we will get there. Because from how our youth are going about it, we will get there eventually. It's just a matter of time and how long it will take us, but eventually we'll get there.
Oh, that's a great point of view. So you've been able to even streamline digital transformation, even down to social media. And I think it's something we didn't actually touch on. Things of like WhatsApp and Twitter, Instagram, and all that. It's really good because even in that space too, there's a lot of monetization going down in that digital space. In terms of social media. What do you think about social media in terms of monetization?
Yes, it's a good way of making money. I remember my mentor has one thing he always says, and then he says everyone will get a shot at making money. What you need to do is maximize your chances when you get your shot. You understand? Like, I've always looked at social media as an impossible to make income with. And I hear of people making up to $1 million a post, which is incredible. There are TikTokers, there are African TikTokers who are making about $5,000 to $10,000 on a monthly basis. So you understand, we've gotten to an age where people can actually live off that, which is a very beautiful thing. I'd never thought that day would come where people can live off just making videos. And we're talking about people making money from a particular social media handle. Like, I'm talking about like only Instagram or only Twitter or only TikTok, not even like broad. You understand? And also, the digital space has also made music very easy. Back in the day, it took forever for a song that was a hit in the US to get to West Africa. It took about a year or two. Like, a song would be a hit there, and it would take us like 2 years to hear it in West Africa. But these days, as soon as the song is out, the whole world hears it. Like, the world has become a global village through social media, which is a very beautiful thing. But remember, everything that has its advantages has its disadvantages. So it's been also used to bully people. There's cyberbullying, there's what's it called? There's identity theft through social media, there's all kinds of crimes going on. So it's up to we as a people to also protect ourselves as we are on that space, because it's a two-sided sword. There's one side will cut and one side is blunt. So it's just up to how we know. It's just up to we keeping in mind that it has its downside and play it safe while we are out there and the amount of information we put out there. Because I remember recently, America is thinking of banning TikTok, and there's been a whole Senate and CEO of TikTok is in Parliament and questioning him left and right here and there. But I don't know why they're blaming him for things that parents or the government should be doing. He cannot be the one. If that should be the case, then Instagram and Facebook and whatnot should also be put down. But I guess it's just a way of trying to sabotage or pull someone else, because it's not an American company, it's a Chinese company. You understand? So it's just a very tricky space and tricky environment to deal with.
Oh yeah, that's really true. And social, in fact, still touching a bit on social media. Well, the good part of it, anyways, where in terms of talent acquisition these days, when companies, a lot of companies that get funded, to perform certain services or send some certain services out to the public, they see social media as a big tool in terms of getting in touch with social media influencers to publicize or market their service or product around. So that social media serves as a really really good marketing tool, especially when you're able to connect finally with the masses around the users of the technology. It's good how you've been able to stress a bit on social media as a whole, and we're also looking at the bad side, the bad side of it. I hope we don't get too much of that in time to come. But um, looking a bit into one more aspect I was trying to touch on in terms of technology in Africa. I was trying to look at agriculture, how technology is affecting or improving agriculture, so to say. Because earlier on, Tech, when I was speaking, when Tech was speaking, he said something about um, raw materials. Africa possessing a lot of raw materials, you know, and well, raw materials falls kind of in the space of agriculture. So, from your perspective, how do you see technology improving agriculture in Africa?
I think that a time will come where there will be a platform for farmers and crop producers and wholesalers of agricultural products for them to have their own community, like the way we have Facebook and TikTok and social media for just socializing. I think a time will come where there'll be a space like that for just them to be able to connect to themselves and figure it out. Because the world, like gradually, the world is becoming a global village. It's becoming so small. Like information from another side of the world that would have normally taken weeks to come to our side is being passed on like in hours, in minutes. So obviously, I know that a day will come where like it will be so easy to get access to all of that. Also remember, with the use of technology and with the use of advancement, now there are machines that can harvest a farm or cultivate a farm that needed 100 men to do. So now 100 men work is being done by a single machine operated by a single person in a few hours. So we know for sure that a time will come where all of this will be like at a snap. We are not there yet, but we're getting there. I'm sure China is ahead of it. I'm sure when we go to China now, there's somebody who's already figured it out, but it's not yet out to the world. That's the whole thing now, and that's the thing China has capitalized on, and that's what's made their economy one of the strongest economies in the world. They capitalized everything on technology, and it's paying off today. Like today, they're leading everyone with technology, and you should see how if you've ever been to China, you will see what those guys are up to. Look, they have understood what is going on, and they are leading the whole movement. Like the amount of things going on there will just blow your mind. I remember there's a time I went to China for an expo they do where inventors exhibit what they have or they exhibit what they're working on. I remember there's a guy I met who had a phone that was transparent and was as light as a paper. It was a smartphone. And I was amazed. I was just blown away. It's transparent and it's as light as a paper. I wonder how that guy made it work. And he had a prototype and it was at the expo. Like I was just blown away. And years before this thing became popular, I met a company that could build a 20-story building in 20 days. When in a normal day, on a normal base, that would take us 5 to 6 years to build. There's a company in China building 20-story building in less than 20 days. And when I say 20 days, from the day of construction starting to the day it finishes is 20 days. That's how how far it's gone.
Wow, that particular point you made there is crazy. Is the 3D printing or still another technology that they're using?
Okay, so what they're doing is that they're cutting out the whole cement mortar experience. They're cutting it out because one cement and mortar and brick and all of that you're taking from the soil. You're destroying the earth. Also, it's more expensive and it's less efficient. So it's less efficient in the sense that when there's an earthquake, it all falls down. Everything breaks, everything collapses. But now they're using sheetrock, they're using metals, they're using plaster boards, they're using silicon, they're using plywoods. So, and these things have been built in a way that it can withstand an earthquake. The only way that this building will fall is that if the floor divides into two. But if the earth shakes, this building wouldn't fall because of how it's been structured. And because of how the materials they're using, it creates less waste. It's less expensive, it's faster, and it's more effective and more efficient.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive.
actually
I mean,
powerful.
that's actually a good implementation of technology in agriculture.
Yeah. That's why I like to go whenever they have that expo. It's normally in November, and it's a beautiful look. When you go there, you would be excited, and you will see that it's a good time to be alive. The amount of things you will see. I remember I saw a guy who had made a sneaker that when you run, it doesn't make any sound. Like you can literally run, and no one will hear your footstep. Like people have done amazing things that will beat your imagination.
That is it.
Your mind cannot stop what they've done.
Yeah. This is why I was saying that socialism as a concept is probably not the best way for a continent like Africa. Something like that to kill innovations. We have to be thinking ahead at this point. We have to be thinking ahead. You're right on point, bro.
Look, the Chinese people, like I'm saying to you, and I always say this because I would love for everyone to travel. Look, when you travel, your perspective, your mentality, your ideology will change because you will start to see the world from a different point of view. You will start to understand that, look, this is no joke. The Chinese people, the Chinese people firsthand, have understood what would pioneer the new age. They are as small as grade one, as we call it in Africa, as we call it in West Africa, class one, are being taught how to assemble machines. As at grade one, class one, they are being taught how to assemble machines. So now everyone knows how to assemble a machine. Like it is rare for you to find somebody who repairs things. It is rare. Everyone knows how to repair. Everyone can repair their own thing. Everyone is a handyman in China. They have understood what it will take for them to for them to lead the next age. And as much as America will challenge it, Chinese are leading it, and they will always lead it because they've taken the step, the necessary step in the right direction to lead it. Like everything that is happening now, they are the ones leading it, from manufacturing to invention to creation to everything. Now they're even leading in agriculture. They're even leading in that sector. Even the food, the spices, is being made there.
Wow, that's something. Everybody should eyes on China, I believe. That's really great. That's really great. Okay, so I guess I guess more on that, I guess, in time to come, in terms of looking at very closely, getting an eyeball on possibilities and innovation in China. Especially if we're going to be talking about digital transformation in Africa, I think China is going to be a good, a good subject to observe when talking about digital transformation. And
What
I would, sorry.
what I think our leaders should do is that they should send out like Gaddafi did for Libya so many years ago. When Gaddafi wanted to mine his oil and the Europeans wanted to do it and taking 90% of it, he decided to send people out of his country to go and learn how to drill the oil. They came back, drilled the oil for the country, and 100% went to Libya. And that's how Libya became Libya. That when Gaddafi lived, that was how Libya became. What Africans leaders need to do is take a group of people outside the world to go and learn and come back and use that knowledge to better our people and better our place. Like Paul Kagame is doing in Rwanda. If you've ever been to Rwanda, if you step foot in Rwanda, you won't believe that a small country like Rwanda is able to launch their own satellites, space satellites. Like Rwanda is a landlocked country. How are they able to raise up that kind of capital when a country like Nigeria that has oil, a country like Ghana that has oil, has gold, has diamond, has all the resources, cannot do that? And a country as small as Rwanda, I'm even sure Lagos State is bigger than Rwanda, but a country as small as Rwanda is able to do that. That means that as African leaders, they are not doing the right thing and they're not stepping in the right direction to develop our people. The sad part about it is that it is the individuals who are educating themselves, who are trying to catch on to technology and catch on to the digital world, because as a country, we are not doing that. But as individuals, we are doing it. So I hope that in the future, we might have a young president or a young leader who is more innovative and take the country, take our nations further like Paul Kagame has done for Rwanda. I will wish to see that in the near future to come.
Yeah, very very well said. Very very well said. Honestly, I think these are things I would need, because obviously as individuals, a lot of people are making proactive actions towards infusing themselves into transformations and innovations. But at the end of the day, policies are indebted to the leader of the nation for the nation itself to actually move forward, which would be really, really instrumental for entrepreneurs and students and the likes, business owners and whatnot. It's going to be really, really instrumental for us. So, at the moment, I think I'll just give some space, some little time for us to just say our last piece, like what we have on our minds in terms of this context, and maybe it could lead us into what we'll be talking about next week. Usually, we like to talk for at least an hour. So, Tech, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So if you have anything conclusive to say in terms of the topic, or if you have anything new that just came to your mind while we're discussing, you can also bring that up.
Well, generally speaking, yeah, I think just like in terms of where the conversation was headed when Nova started to talk, I actually agree with a whole bunch of things that he said, and this was why recently I was in a conversation with somebody. We're arguing about capitalism versus socialism, and I was trying to make him understand that socialism is not what we need in Africa. It's not what we need. We need development. We need to see things move. There are a lot of things that we as individuals who are technologically inclined, there are a lot of things that we can do to help our nation grow. And things like socialism is going to actually kill such innovations. So yeah, I'll just say that I hope for the best for Africa. I feel like there's nothing much we can do but talk. At the end of the day, um, everything is still in the hands of the powers that be. So we'll just keep doing our best to, make the best for ourselves. There's nothing much to say besides that.
Okay, that's actually great. So maybe on a good day we can also talk about socialism and capitalism. Can talk about it and see in depthly, the pros and cons, and see, because for me, I don't believe socialism or capitalism is good for any nation. I think there's a middle ground, personally. Maybe it's not been originated yet, but it's there, but there's no name for it. Um, I don't know.
For,
Okay, I
for
think Nova,
me,
are you
for me, uh, I've lost hope in the leaders, but the youth has given me hope because we have, the hard times have created strong youth. Because I can bet you that if all the youth in Europe were brought to Africa and all African youth were sent to Europe, I'm sure we'll do better than them. Because we have learned the youth in Africa has learned to make things out of nothing. We've had people that have been able to fund themselves to school by just running a business on their own. So I have faith that the youth will eventually turn things around. If it's up to our leaders, we would have all been dead. But I just have faith because I've seen what the youth is doing. I've seen what they are like coming out with, and it's very promising. So the future is bright for Africa.
okay? That's actually very well said. I guess we'll end on the note that the future is bright for Africa. And since we're just here for left, I'll have to. Okay, I don't know if Bitcoin Chief is going to connect now, but we're about to end the conversation. Hopefully, by within the week, we'll get like our new topic where we talk about. Personally, I enjoyed this conversation, and thank you guys for being a part of this one. And yeah, Bitcoin Chief, are you there? Okay, it's not here. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I wouldn't take more of your time. So if there's anything, we will talk.
All right, this has been awesome.
Okay, guys.
All right. Good night.
All right.